First, computer hacker Gary McKinnon remains too scared to hope, even when hope is offered by the most powerful man in the world. Gary's mother, Janis, has described the state he's in after hearing that Barack Obama has spoken of finding an appropriate solution to the Londoner's case.
Now, the issue was raised by David Cameron personally with the president during their talks at the White House. It suggests the end is in sight for Gary's ordeal, which began in November 2002.
And that was when prosecutors in America accused him of the biggest military computer hack of all time and then demanded his extradition. Ben Scotchbrook has been speaking to Gary's mother.
He's scared to hope, but he has hope, because how could you not when that's happened?
What happened in the White House last night appears to be a breakthrough for Janis Sharp. For 8 years she's been fighting the system, hoping to stop her son, Gary McKinnon, being extradited to America. That fight has now been discussed at the very highest level.
I trust that this will get resolved in a way that underscores the seriousness of the issue, but also underscores the fact that we work together and we can find an appropriate solution.
Suffering from Asperger's syndrome, Mr. McKinnon wasn't well enough to be interviewed today. These pictures were taken last week. But his mother told me they've been hugely impressed by the Prime Minister raising Gary's situation with President Obama.
The fact that he had the guts to actually stand up for British citizens in America at such a sensitive time, discussing BP and everything, and everybody so angry at him, I think is amazing.
But this fight is not over yet. Gary McKinnon doesn't deny that he hacked into US military computers almost 9 years ago, searching, he says, for evidence of UFOs. Ever since, he's been battling extradition to America and a possible jail sentence of up to 60 years. In opposition, the Lib Dems and Conservatives both vowed to review what many believe to be an unequal extradition treaty with America. But even after yesterday's talks in Washington, there are no guarantees. The phrase that President Obama has used is an appropriate solution. That leaves quite a few doors open still at this stage, doesn't it?
I think the only appropriate solution would be here, because otherwise it's the same as it always was, that what we've been fighting against for 8 years is the extradition itself.
So for you it's a trial back here?
Absolutely. No one's ever been extradited for computer crime, ever, in the world. But to take him over there, why? Who would it be for? What purpose would it serve?
The good news then for Gary McKinnon's family is that a transatlantic compromise is on the table. But what follows now is a nervous wait for the details. Ben Scotchbrook, London Tonight, Brooklands Park, Hertfordshire.
Well, with us now is Gary McKinnon's solicitor, Karen Todner. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, where do you stand on this? Where do you think things can go now, considering this has been brought up in the White House by the President as a result of David Cameron having brought it up?
Well, we're obviously extremely pleased that David Cameron has raised it. The situation with the case at the moment is that the papers are with Theresa May and she's reconsidering the case. I imagine that the discussion yesterday is part of her reconsideration, and that we're hoping that the extradition will stop and be withdrawn by the US, and as a result Gary will be allowed to stand trial in the UK.
Well, what a difference a day makes after 8 years. Appropriate solution was the phrase. What would you consider an appropriate solution?
For us, the only appropriate solution would be for Gary to stand trial in the UK. He's always accepted what he did, and he's perfectly prepared to stand trial here and face the consequences here. It's actually going to America that is the real issue for him. The other thing is that if he went to America, he could stand trial. It could take up to 3 years for him to actually stand trial, in which case he would probably be in prison during that time. He'd be away from his family, everybody he knows, everything around him, which for a person who suffers from Asperger's in the way that he does would be incredibly difficult. So there has been talk in the press today of him serving his sentence in the UK following a conviction. That would not be an appropriate solution in my view.
But surely it's a better solution than perhaps him having to go to the States and serve time there.
I think that the consequences to Gary of actually being extradited would be so severe that it would have really dire consequences, and I don't think that should be allowed to happen. In
the normal course of events, he could have faced 60 years in jail. What sentence would you want him, expect him to serve in this country? In the UK, under the Misuse of Computer Act, depending on what section he accepted, I would think an appropriate sentence would be somewhere between 2 and 4 years.
Now, the 2002 is a long time ago. I mean,
Yes.
8 years is a huge amount of time to have this hanging over his head and his mother's head and yours.
Yes.
So did you ever think that it would reach a stage where the President would be bringing this up in the White House?
We've always hoped that if the Conservative government got into power, that they would take this case very seriously and raise it at the highest level, and we're so grateful to David Cameron for doing that. They were very vocal when they were in opposition about their opposition to the extradition treaty, and also in particular in relation to Gary's case. It has been a real roller coaster, the whole case. There have been times when I've had to say to Gary, I think you'll be gone within 10 days and there's nothing more we can do for you, and then something happens and it's been we've got another issue that we've raised and the case has gone on, and we're just very hopeful now.
So one final question then. Have you spoken to Gary today? How is he dealing with this?
I haven't spoken to Gary today. He finds it incredibly difficult to communicate. He just basically lets me and Janis get on with it, which is what we do.
Okay.
Well, we've been following it throughout, and we will continue to bring our audience the latest as and when.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.